Imagine this, a 30,000-pound bomb falling from the sky, smashing through 60 feet of concrete and exploding hundreds of feet beneath the earth. Now ask yourself, what could possibly survive that? In today's video, you'll witness the evolution of destruction and the terrifying technology behind the weapons designed to end wars before they even begin. From Disney bombs to indestructible concrete, this is not just military history. This is the battle for survival underground. Stick around, because what you'll see at the end might change how you view modern warfare forever. The horror of World War I introduced humanity to a new kind of battlefield, one where survival meant going underground. Trench warfare exposed soldiers to an unrelenting rain of bullets, gas, and shells, forcing engineers to dig shelters beneath the surface. These weren't just ditches, they were the first primitive bunkers made of mud and sandbags, born out of desperation rather than design. But what began as necessity soon evolved into strategy. Nations realized that the Earth itself could offer unmatched protection if structured properly. It was here, amid the blood-soaked landscapes of Europe, that the psychological foundation of bunkers was laid, a safe haven in a world gone mad. And in that soil, the seeds of a hidden war were planted. As technology advanced, so did the concept of shelter. Reinforced concrete replaced mud, and underground chambers expanded into labyrinths of command centers, ammo depots, and field hospitals. Warfare was no longer just about holding ground, it was about defending the ground beneath your feet. Thus, a silent arms race began, not one of guns and tanks, but of steel and concrete, of going deeper, hiding better, surviving longer. The battlefield was no longer just above ground, it was below. Fear has always been a great motivator, and nothing terrified world powers more than the destructive potential of aerial bombardment. When bombers began to darken the skies in World War II, the idea of shelter transformed again, from basic protection to total fortification. The enemy was no longer at the gates, he was above you, raining fire from the heavens. The French built the Maginot Line, a sprawling underground fortress meant to be impenetrable. The Germans countered with the Siegfried Line and the Atlantic Wall, turning steel and concrete into their national armor. These weren't just defenses, they were symbols of paranoia and pride, monuments to a fear that the next war might leave nothing standing. But behind every foot of rebar was a psychological truth. Bunkers represented control in a world where chaos reigned. They were proof that man could still carve out a sanctuary even as the skies turned deadly. And that belief, that the right structure could defy destruction, became a cornerstone of military doctrine for decades. Fear dug deep, literally. The deeper the enemy threat became, the deeper nations buried their secrets, their leaders, and their last hopes of survival. By the Cold War, bunkers weren't just tactical, they were existential. As nuclear tensions soared, governments raced to bury their command centers under mountains of rock and reinforced steel. These weren't just places to hide troops, they were designed to outlast the apocalypse itself. The US built NORAD beneath Cheyenne Mountain. The Soviets responded with Mount Yamantau, a shadowy complex said to stretch for miles underground. These fortresses weren't whispers of war, they were roars of readiness. For the first time in history, survival wasn't about fighting, it was about enduring. But with every new bunker came a new problem: visibility. Satellites, spies, and surveillance began to detect what had been buried, forcing nations to dig deeper, reinforce harder, and guard tighter. The obsession with hiding power only made the targets more tempting, and so a paradox emerged. The more invincible a bunker appeared, the more it invited an arms race to destroy it. The more secure the command center, the more likely it was to become the epicenter of future attacks. In a war where bunkers refused to break, someone had to change the rules. That someone was Barnes Wallis, a British engineer who looked at concrete and saw not a wall, but a weakness. He understood that no structure, no matter how deep, could survive if the ground beneath it was ripped apart. Enter the Tallboy and Grand Slam. Earthquake bombs designed not to hit bunkers directly, but to destabilize their very foundations. By burrowing into the earth and detonating from below, these bombs created massive underground cavities, camouflages, collapsing structures from the inside out. It was a revolution in warfare. Suddenly, the earth, once a soldier's shield, became a weapon. Walls cracked, steel bent, and confidence crumbled. These bombs didn't just destroy bunkers, they humiliated them, revealing the limits of even the most reinforced designs. The battlefield shifted again. If you couldn't hide from firepower, maybe you could hide from the force of the Earth itself. But Wallace proved even the planet could be turned against you. Barnes Wallace wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even a traditional weapons designer. He was a visionary, a man who believed that engineering could end wars faster than bullets. His bombs didn't just kill, they shattered psychology, shook confidence, and challenged the very idea of safety beneath the soil. He watched as traditional bombs bounced off German fortresses like pebbles on armor. It wasn't enough to drop explosives. You had to break the earth. That's when he conceived the Grand Slam, a 10-ton monster that fell from 18,000 feet and burrowed into the ground before unleashing its fury. Wallace's innovation wasn't just in size, but in philosophy. He changed how warfare thought about depth, shock, and pressure. His weapons didn't aim for destruction, they aimed for collapse. They were silent for seconds, then roared like demons rising from the earth. To this day, his designs echo in every modern bunker buster, every GBU, every MOP. They carry the DNA of one man's belief that nothing buried is ever truly safe. Imagine a weapon so massive its mere fall shakes the ground before it even explodes. The Grand Slam wasn't just a bomb, it was a message. Dropped from high altitudes, it sliced through the sky like a meteor, spinning violently for stability, and slicing through air resistance with terrifying grace. At over 22,000 pounds, it hit with such force that even the strongest bunkers felt its wrath. The Grand Slam didn't need to be precise, it just needed to land close enough. The resulting shockwaves would do the rest, turning fortified concrete into fractured memories buried in rubble. But the Grand Slam had limitations too. Its size made it vulnerable. If it hit at the wrong angle, it could shatter itself before delivering its payload. Precision was a gamble. Engineering a near supersonic fall was as much art as science, and not every drop was perfect. Still, the message was clear. Nothing built by man could ignore the laws of physics forever. The Grand Slam didn't just defeat bunkers, it humiliated them. The psychological scar it left on enemy forces lasted far longer than the crater it created. It sounds absurd, a cartoon inspiring carnage, but in 1943, a Walt Disney propaganda film lit the spark that led to one of the most extreme bomb designs ever attempted. Engineers weren't just watching cartoons, they were imagining the future of destruction. Enter the Disney bomb, officially known as the rocket-assisted concrete piercing bomb. Unlike its predecessors, it didn't rely on gravity alone. Rockets attached to its rear kicked in mid-air, launching the bomb to supersonic speeds. It was no longer falling, now it was charging. Its sleek dart-like shape allowed it to pierce deep into reinforced structures. The design was brilliant, but the delivery was brutal. Without a guidance system, every drop was a calculated risk. Pilots had to release it from the perfect altitude at the perfect moment, hoping the rockets would ignite and the target wouldn't move. Despite its limitations, the Disney bomb proved one thing: imagination fuels innovation. Even a cartoon could ignite the spark that turns fantasy into firepower. And sometimes, truth is far deadlier than fiction. Destroying a bunker isn't about brute force alone. It's about physics, how you harness velocity, mass, and angle to maximize destruction. Every impact has a story. A war between density and resistance, steel and stone. The Disney bomb and its successors showed that faster isn't always better unless it's controlled. Engineers had to calculate not just where the bomb would land, but how deep it would go, how the shockwave would travel, and whether the target would crack or absorb the blow. It's a deadly dance of equations. Newton, Young, Bernoulli, their principles shaped these weapons as much as any military general. The ideal bunker buster doesn't explode on contact. It burrows, settles, and then annihilates from within, ensuring the target never had a chance. And as science advanced, so did ambition. Each generation of bomb was a little smarter, a little stronger, a little more terrifying, because if one thing was certain, bunkers would only get tougher, and bombs had to outthink them before they could outrun them. War doesn't pause, it evolves, and so do the tools we build to fight it. Every time a bomb shattered a bunker, engineers returned to their blueprints. Every time a bunker survived, bomb designers went back to the drawing board. This wasn't innovation, it was obsession. From World War II to the Gulf War, the stakes grew with every conflict. Nations buried deeper, reinforced harder, and imagined stronger defenses. In response, the bombs grew smarter, faster, heavier. Precision replaced brute force. Science replaced guesswork. This cycle became its own battlefield. A hidden war of minds and materials. Concrete got denser, steel got sharper. Electronics entered the fray, giving bombs eyes and brains. But the question lingered, would the offense always outrun the defense? Or would there come a time when even the most powerful weapon met its match in silence, buried beneath a bunker that simply refused to break? The Cold War wasn't just a standoff of ideologies, it was a war of shadows. And in those shadows, nations built monuments to fear. These weren't skyscrapers, they were underground cities carved into stone to survive not just bullets, but the end of the world itself. Cheyenne Mountain, Mount Yamantau, doomsday bunkers layered in secrecy and steel. These weren't defensive structures, they were acts of desperation, proof that world leaders didn't just expect war, they planned to live through it even if no one else did. Inside these fortresses were not just weapons, but entire systems for survival. Food, air, power, communication. Engineers imagined a world where the surface was lost, but the war continued from below. It was strategy, it was madness, it was survival. And it sent a message to every enemy watching. If you come for us, be ready to dig through mountains to finish the job. Deep within Russia's Ural Mountains lies one of the most secretive constructions of the modern age, Mount Yamantau. To this day, its true purpose remains cloaked in mystery, but what's known is enough to chill the spine. It's believed to be a vast underground fortress, a last bastion for command in the face of global annihilation. Stretching for miles beneath solid rock, it was designed to withstand repeated nuclear strikes. Not one, not two, but half a dozen, according to US intelligence at the time. Entire communities were relocated just to make room for its construction. The silence surrounding it is deafening. To understand Yamantau is to understand fear on a national scale. It wasn't built to win a war. It was built to survive its worst possible version. A monument not to strength but to dread, a reality where survival means being buried deeper than death itself. In a way, Yamantau is the perfect symbol of the Cold War, invisible, massive, and ready to outlast the apocalypse. But even mountains can crumble if the right force finds them. The Gulf War didn't wait for perfect weapons, it forced the US to improvise, adapt, and execute fast. Iraqi command bunkers were buried deep, fortified with concrete and earth, and early attempts to breach them failed. Time was running out. The mission was clear: create a bomb that could go deeper than ever before. In under a month. Enter the GBU-28. Using modified artillery barrels, engineers built a 5,000-pound precision bomb in just 28 days. No luxury of prototypes, no room for mistakes. It was wartime innovation at its most brutal and brilliant. This bomb didn't just fall, it hunted. Laser guided, it could track targets with devastating accuracy. With the force to punch through 20 feet of reinforced concrete or dig 100 feet into the earth, it turned bunkers into tombs. No matter how deep, one of its first real-world tests was also one of its greatest victories. A direct hit on an Iraqi bunker signaled not just tactical success, but a shift in modern warfare. In less than a month, the battlefield had changed forever. There was a time when bombs were blind. They fell where they were told, and sometimes missed. But when laser guidance entered the game, war became personal. The GBU-28 was just the beginning. Now, bunker busters could see. With guidance systems synced to spotters on the ground or aircraft above, bombs could follow targets like heat-seeking hounds. The era of collateral damage was giving way to surgical strikes. Concrete wasn't safe, steel wasn't safe, distance wasn't safe. These new bombs adjusted mid-air, correcting their path in real time. Fins flexed, trajectories shifted. There was no escape once a laser lit the way. It was technology infused with deadly intent, a machine with purpose, eyes, and devastating memory. And with every bunker breached, the myth of safety crumbled a little more. Precision didn't just change warfare, it changed psychology. There was nowhere left to hide. While the world watched bombs evolve, Iran was quietly transforming the very material meant to stop them. Traditional concrete had limits, brittle, prone to cracking under high-velocity impacts. But what if concrete could bend before it broke? What if it could absorb the blow instead of shatter? That's where ultra-high-performance concrete, UHPC, came in. With strength exceeding 35,000 psi and reinforced with steel and glass fibers, this new concrete didn't just resist impact, it fought back. Instead of catastrophic collapse, it fractured slowly, distributing energy like a living armor. Iran embraced this technology not as a luxury, but as a necessity. As tension with the US grew, so did the sophistication of its bunkers. Rumors swirled that a US bunker buster had once embedded itself in an Iranian facility, without detonating. If true, it was a seismic message. The game had changed. UHPC wasn't just concrete, it was defiance hardened into stone. And for the first time, the unstoppable force had met an immovable object. Some stories don't come with explosions, some come with silence, the kind that echoes louder than any blast. The rumored failure of a bunker buster in Iran sent shockwaves through military circles, not because a target survived, but because the weapon didn't do what it was built for. Imagine the calculations, the billions in development, the decades of evolution, all leading to a moment where concrete simply didn't give. That kind of failure doesn't just bruise ego, it shifts strategy. It forces the question, what now? For the public, it was a whisper. For those inside military planning rooms, it was an earthquake. Every weapon has a counter, every advantage has a flaw, and suddenly the idea that bunkers were beatable wasn't so certain anymore. In that silence, nations realized something chilling. The war between bomb and bunker was far from over, and maybe, just maybe, the next breakthrough wouldn't come from the sky, but from the Earth itself. If the GBU-28 was a scalpel, the GBU-57 MOP is a sledgehammer. Weighing 30,000 pounds and stretching over 20 feet long, this monster isn't just a bomb. It's a declaration, a weapon designed to defy logic, physics, and every bunker ever imagined. Its casing is forged from Eglin steel, stronger than most artillery barrels, giving it the resilience to dive through 200 feet of earth or 60 feet of ultra-reinforced concrete. At its heart, a warhead packing 2.4 tons of high explosives, a pulse of destruction meant to obliterate anything in its path. Only the B-2 Spirit bomber can carry this beast, and only under specific conditions. Each drop requires meticulous planning, global coordination, and total precision. Because when the MOP is released, there is no second chance. It either succeeds spectacularly or fails massively. But what does it say about a world that builds such weapons? That this level of force is not only imagined but considered necessary? The MOP is both marvel and menace, proof of our ingenuity and our willingness to test the limits of devastation. As bombs evolve and bunkers grow stronger, a deeper question emerges. Is this race about survival or domination? Every advancement in weaponry sparks an equally desperate effort in defense, but at what cost? Human ingenuity shines in both camps. Engineers building materials that flex under fire, scientists crafting bombs that can think mid-air. Both are testaments to brilliance, but behind that brilliance is a hunger, not for peace, for control. The tug of war between offense and defense mirrors something primal, our refusal to accept vulnerability. Each side seeks the upper hand, not to avoid war, but to win it. And as a result, technology soars while diplomacy falters. In this race, there is no finish line, just deeper bunkers, bigger bombs, and the growing fear that maybe, just maybe, we're too smart for our own survival. It seems impossible, stopping a bomb that falls faster than sound and hits harder than history. But defense experts around the world haven't given up. Instead, they've devised 4 last-ditch strategies to stop a bunker buster before it delivers its fatal blow. First, intercept the delivery system. Take down the plane or drone before the bomb is released. Second, target the bomb mid-flight using air-to-air missiles or drone-mounted lasers to neutralize it in motion. A nearly impossible task, but not entirely out of reach. Third, disrupt its guidance. Through electronic warfare, GPS jamming, or hacking, the bomb's precision can be thrown off, sending it into the wrong coordinates. Fourth, strike preemptively. Hit the stockpiles before deployment. Destroy the weapons before they take flight. Each method is high risk, high stakes. But when the alternative is devastation from the sky, nations will try anything, because in modern warfare, sometimes survival depends not on strength, but speed and foresight. Most wars are fought in open view. This one is different. It's invisible, buried beneath our feet. A war of concrete, algorithms, pressure waves, and steel. And yet it may be the most important battle of all, because it's about survival. Bunkers are no longer just shelters. They're data centers, military nerve hubs, and last resort sanctuaries. Hidden behind layers of earth, they hum quietly, storing the lifelines of nations. To destroy one is to blind an army. To protect one is to preserve sovereignty. Impact, construction in seconds. This is a watching, digging, or erupt. What happens when offense and defense reach their peak? When bunkers are nearly unbreakable and bombs nearly unstoppable, we arrive at a terrifying realization that the future of war may not be winnable, only survivable. Innovation will push boundaries, but each breakthrough in destruction only fuels a deeper commitment to protection. A better bomb leads to better concrete. A stronger shelter inspires a smarter weapon, and so the cycle continues. But beneath all this advancement is a chilling truth. We're building weapons and shelters not to end war, but to make it last. We're preparing not for peace, but for a future where war is normalized, constant, and more precise than ever. In our race to outthink death, we may have forgotten what life is worth. Because if the next global war is fought underground, with bombs that cost millions and bunkers that go miles deep, maybe the grave we're digging isn't for our enemies. Maybe it's for ourselves.